Welcome to this Proservartner podcast, part of our ongoing series Outsourcing Talks. My name is Paul Morrison and I'm Managing Director at Transformation Advisors Proservartner. Today our topic is barriers to transformation and innovation in BPO. And I'm lucky to have on hand, as if by magic, industry veteran and Proservartner CEO Rakesh. Welcome, Rakesh.
Hello, thank you very much, Paul. Hello, everyone. I'm Rakesh Sangani.
And we're going to dive into the discussion in a moment, but just to open it up, I guess when we're talking transformation and innovation in BPO, this is quite often a sore topic amongst users of BPO, clients who've invested in BPO in the past, in that they often complain or fear that they're not really seeing enough of it in terms of the services they receive. So BPO at its most basic, business process outsourcing, whether that's an HR admin service, a payroll service, an accounting service, at its heart is running of an ongoing set of activities, maybe labeled by some cynically, you almost for less. There's a business as usual running, and that's the basic requirement. And the bells and whistles of improvement, innovation and transformation beyond that are extra and often seen as optional, or have been seen as optional in the past. And I think the challenge is that as a BPO user or buyer, after a few years, the question is, well, what next? You've outsourced, you've maybe offshored as part of that, you've achieved maybe an initial step change in benefits, but where is the incremental value? You have a chunk of activity, a chunk of spend that is inert and not moving. And so, that's a challenge, particularly for BPOs that have perhaps been around for a while, outsourcing deals that have succeeded for one or two generations. And then the question is, well, how do we get more? And that's really where transformation and innovation come in terms of a potential solution. And I suppose this creates an initial set of questions around what do we really mean by these pieces. Perhaps just to set out a basic set of definitions, and we can move beyond that. Transformation, really, in a simple sense, is simply a step change in the way of working. So changes to process or technology or the organization. And that's the same for BPO or non-BPO context. That step change where new outcomes, a new operating model perhaps has been targeted, and it's a big deal. It requires an investment, and it might look like something small like a automated scanning project or a new portal for suppliers, or it might be a major ERP or let's say an S4 upgrade. It could be a major multi-year change. So that's transformation. That's more than and more sustained than a small incremental continuous improvement change. Overlapping with transformation is innovation, which is more simply, it's a process of creating value by doing things differently. So it's you might see it as the process of identifying ideas for improvements, filtering them, deploying them, and then running them. So to transform, you usually need to innovate, and the two often go together, but they are slightly different lenses on a similar set of things. So that's the landscape. We've got BPO, which can be a bit unchanging and stagnant, and then you've got the promise of transformation and innovation. And very often the fear is that these things don't mix that well, and that's why we're going to chew through our top tips on those barriers to innovation and transformation in BPO and give you our take on that. Rakesh, I've been hogging the mic, sorry for that. Your take on the landscape as you think about these big chunky topics.
Wonderful definitions. Yeah, look, I have to say I'm not a big fan of these buzzwords like innovation and transformation, because I think for a lot of organizations, they don't mean much. So I think sometimes if you've got a 20-person outsourcing deal and you're looking to make a cost saving of $500,000 to $1 million or what have you, and you're not looking for anything else, actually the innovation and the transformation is not important. And I think these terms get bandied about as if they can be achieved through osmosis as part of an outsourcing contract. I think that's just simply not the case. The most important thing, I think, when you're thinking about your outsourcing and whether you're getting enough big T transformation or big I innovation, is whether you really set out to achieve it. And do you have a clear vision and a clear roadmap around how you're going to take those steps to set out that transformation that you're looking for? Because I think a lot of organizations may not start with that in mind, but at the same time, they can be complaining about it a few years down the line when actually they've achieved their cost savings, but they haven't achieved much else. So I think firstly, what's important is to set out a clear vision and roadmap around the why. Why am I outsourcing? If I'm outsourcing just for cost, don't be surprised if you don't get any innovation. If I'm outsourcing for cost plus standardization plus innovation plus transformation, are you asking for too much, especially if your cost is a 50-60% reduction? Mm-hmm. But if my targets are a bit more reasonable across the pace, then actually I think you can really achieve amazing things partnering with an outsourcer. So I think it starts off for me around setting the right vision, the right objectives, the right roadmap to be able to achieve this.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I agree with the first piece there around the words are not enough, and the buzzwords can be dangerous and misleading. I agree with that. And start at the beginning around the direction and purpose. I think building on that, I think there's a level beneath the overarching intent. Let's say it's around efficiency or scalability or better service, to a vision around what the service can be that the customer needs to have and the supplier needs to have, and ideally it should be the same vision. So I think, for example, of a P2P process where it's been outsourced for many years, but what does that future process, what could it look like? What's the art of the possible? And for the 100 things that you could do to P2P, from putting in place next generation supplier portals or chatbots, or improving the invoice capture, to workflow at the end of that process, there's hundreds of things that can be done. And part of having a clear strategy is having a really clear view of what parts of the end-to-end you're going to process. And I think if we think about something like generative AI that's coming through and starting to find its place in the outsourcing landscape, then that's going to fly where it's clear where that technology gets baked into the vision of the end-to-end. How is it going to transform customer contact? How is it going to transform analytical roles, for example? So I think it's a really big one, vision and roadmap. And
I think it sets the tone. I think it sets the tone as well, because if you don't have that, it's very difficult to have an investment discussion as well. So again, when you talk about that the innovation and transformation that you're looking to achieve, you sometimes need to invest to save, or you need to invest to innovate, or you need to transform. And if you don't have that vision, that strategy in place, that investment decision can be a lot more difficult, because you've already banked the savings from what you've done, and then you're looking for further benefit with limited investment. I think it's really key to think out front around what does this really mean for you as a business? How can you be quite pragmatic around what you can achieve, and then what are you willing to invest to get there, and what does that investment look like? And I think that's key from my perspective. And then there's ways that you can structure those investments. I know a recent outsourcing deal where in the contracting phase, we got both sides to put money in the pot for innovation. And I think that's increasingly popular. So then there's an investment vehicle which both parties are funding to really innovate. So things like that, I think, really help to move the discussion around innovation along, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the point you make there about investment, that's probably the defining characteristic of something that's transformation. Without, if it's possible to do it without investment, then it's business as usual. But going above and beyond, requires that. So I think that's fundamental. And I guess the other classic take on how to crack the investment challenge in an outsourcing context is gain share. So the idea that you agree a change, you agree that you're going to re-engineer the HR admin process and put a new self-serve tool in to support that. You agree how much it's going to cost to do the change, and you agree the benefits that are going to accrue, and it gets funded out of those savings or improved performance. That's often talked about and can be done successfully as a way of financing and outsourcing investment. So I think that's key. And I guess the other thought in terms of the investment wish list is starting with a balanced or reasonable set of commercials where the supplier is not struggling to keep up from the start. So you obviously want a competitive business as usual price, but not one where there is no room for talent and experience on the supply side, because without that, then all of the focus of the organization, the supplier, is going to be on keeping the lights on, and there'll be no oxygen left for thinking about the future and supporting some of this future-facing dialogue. So I think there's a lot that needs to go right on that commercial side.
And I think it links to investment, really, because ultimately that's an investment, isn't it? That you're not being as aggressive on the contractuals of the deal to allow some room for more innovation and big T transformation. Look, I think for me, that commercial construct matters as well, because if you're able to define exactly what you're looking for, it's much easier then to contract against it. And what you'll find is that it's much more likely to turn into reality. I think not enough organizations define it and then bring that into the contract and post-contract realization. Gen AI is a great example. Everyone's talking about Gen AI, but how many have actually contracted against it? So they've got it on their outsourcing contracts and have defined exactly how and where they want to use this and what benefit is it going to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key dividing line, isn't it? In that some transformation, innovation is visible when you've got the pen in your hand and you're about to sign a contract. And then for many organizations that are, say, 3-4 years in, and they're looking at expiring or a renewed deal in, I don't know, a couple of years' time, then there's very little thought about transformation. There's no payback for any transformations that have been put in place. So I think the whole point there you raise about the timing of the transformation conversation is key, and you're going to get a lot of attention. You're going to get a lot of runway just before the deal is put in place. So timing is important.
I think timing.
How about, sorry, after you, Rakesh.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the other aspect that's just important for me is also the technology. So timing is important, technology is important as well. And I think a lot of organizations, I find, when they think about innovation and transformation, don't think enough about the technology they already pay for. So, I think a lot of organizations probably leverage a number of systems that can do a lot more than what they're leveraging that system for. I come across examples every day of businesses using Blackline, Trintech, Basware, OpenText, HighRadius, FIS, Get Paid, ESCA, and others, but not really leveraging the full functionality. So ultimately what happens is they deal with a component of that benefit, but they've not truly innovated, not truly transformed, because they haven't optimized the use of technology. And sometimes they then bring in a BPO provider that has the same technology, cut up in a slightly different way, but is able to generate the benefit from that in a better way that maybe the organization is able to do itself. So, and I see that as a big problem in today's environment around technology. It's not necessarily going out and buying the latest and greatest. It's actually understanding the functionality and bringing it to life in your business that really generates the benefit. So I think that's an important aspect not to forget about, is the technology and the tooling aspect.
Yeah, it's a really great question, the way you put it there, sort of how you bring technology to life. And I think, we've been talking about the vision and the roadmap. You need that. You need the right commercials. You need the right technology, and you may already have that in-house. It may also be that you need the right partner. So not every partner, not every outsourcer has deep transformational track record or skills, or may not have it in the technology that you're looking to push forward. So that could be on a small scale, bringing in a partner or advisor like Proservartner, or it could be a more dramatic change that says, look, we are going to be dramatically digitizing our procurement function in the next 3 years. We need to be working with an organization that is heavily invested in our core technology, our core platforms. We need to do that. So I think there's a capability question about the provider, and a question about bringing in support to that. I think there's also the sort of the buy side, the client side capability question that says, if the buy side doesn't have sufficient capability, it itself is the problem. And we work with organizations where one of the big challenges, the buy side organizations, the big challenges is the sheer weight of commitment, or the sheer weight of demand to transform different parts of the business. So rolling out major ERP changes, new CRM, new platforms left and right, and there's almost paralysis on the client side. That means that even with all these supplier capabilities in place, they cannot engage quickly with the supplier in a transformation discussion or an innovation discussion. It simply gets deprioritized, and that's another challenge. The client has to have the expertise and the bandwidth to push this forward, because it can't be outsourced. It has to be in the room, has to authorize, has to co-design all of these areas to make change happen, I would say.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the people element is a really challenging area to get right, because I think the people skills you need to innovate and to transform, you can't just rely, as you say, on your outsourcing partner. And finding those skills is not so easy either in the current marketplace. There's a real war on talent. Finding people that really understand technology, I think, is difficult enough. And then finding people that understand the technology and understand process together, so you've got the right solution based on your context, then adding the business understanding, that's where I think a lot of businesses really struggle. So yeah, I think there really is a talent shortage when it comes to people that are able to bring together the paradigm of process, technology, and business context together to be able to really help innovate and transform. And I think without that, you're then reliant on maybe third parties, or you're trying to do the best that you can do with lots of different stakeholders in different areas. What I find is actually those people with that relevant skill set end up getting dragged along 20 different projects because they have that capability that actually is in short supply. It's
difficult. And I suppose if we step back from the conversation, we've been talking here a lot about the barriers for innovation in a BPO context. I'm a believer, obviously, and I see the capabilities partners do bring to the table. And I do see, when I look at the leaders in this field, I do see them predicting change in the roles that they're planning to play. They're investing more and more in data analytics, AI capabilities. They're investing more and more in their core systems transformation capabilities. So they see the future in being successful in these spaces that we see. And already, if we take areas like visualization or process mining, many of these BPOs are the world leaders in deploying these technologies at scale. So there are barriers to outsourcing, to innovation in an outsourcing context, but there's also bonuses and benefits, I'd say. So
I would say there's definitely bonuses and benefits. The challenge for every buyer, though, is bringing it to life on their account. I think we hear too often that we know they have this capability, but we've just not seen it on our processes in our particular area. And I think, again, that comes back to running a good RFP process, contracting the right way, and having the right relationship. Because something goes wrong in a lot of accounts which actually don't get the value of the analytics skills. They don't get the value of Gen AI. They don't get the value of the customer contact algorithms and technologies, the workflow tools, the inbuilt RPA platforms that are more use case driven. All of these extra benefits are not necessarily always coming to life. So I think that's the challenge for a lot of buyers as well today is, okay, we know the capability exists. We've seen it. We've seen demos of it. We know it's used on different accounts, but for some reason, it's not being used on our account, and we need to do something to bring it to life. Yeah,
I think that's a great way to summarize the challenge. And I guess we've touched on a number of different themes there in this topic here around, I guess we started on lack of vision and the need for a roadmap. We talked about investments and the commercial challenges. We talked about skills and capabilities. We talked about technology and the fact that it doesn't happen by itself. And then I guess latterly there, Rakesh, you're talking about bringing it to life, the chemistry of the whole situation and making it happen in the day-to-day of an outsourcing context. So I think there's a lot to get right, and we'll talk in future podcasts. I think we want to drill into the specifics of AI and how that is changing transformation and innovation and the value and the potential for BPO in our next podcast. So we'll be able to peel the onion on that particular topic a little bit further. So I think with time against us, we'll draw the session to a close. Thank you, Rakesh, as ever, for your comments and your insights there. Thanks to our listeners again. As ever, please do help yourself to our events and insights on the Proservartner website, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Many thanks.
Many thanks, everyone. Take care. Thanks for listening.